goofy liberal
He's
legislation.
not going to be put in the situation that Ritter was when Ritter was trying to at least, put himself out there as bipartisan. Well, he had a House that was controlled by Democrats, and he had a Senate controlled by Democrats, and they were sending him all kinds of stuff. They were sending him labor bills that he didn't want to deal with. They were sending him, and that got him in a lot of trouble. He ended up vetoing a couple of labor bills back in 2009, I think. And
what's so great about Governor Ritter, God bless him, he was able to piss off the business community and the labor community.
Right.
And that takes some skill.
Right.
All right. Let's talk about some specific issues. The Arizona law. Now, I'm thinking that maybe if Tom Tancredo pulled this one out, this would become a real issue. It's going to be introduced. I wouldn't be surprised if it makes it through the House. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's enough backlash that it could find its way on the governor's desk.
I'd be very surprised if that happened, personally. I think the Republicans are going to make a big mistake by trying to make a big splash with this right away in the session. I don't think Colorado's up for this right now, and it's just not a priority with anyone. I think that the Republicans need to be careful to stick with economic issues right now. That's going to be the big challenge for Amy Stevens, is keeping herding cats in such a manner as that we don't get a lot of social issues legislation introduced that you cannot win with a one-person majority. Right. On budgetary issues, she's safe. She's very safe. All Republicans will vote the same.
She's a social conservative.
Yes.
But the party, I would hope, has learned the lesson from back when we had both houses before. Here we were, while we're dealing with economic issues, we were passing important things like we need to have the Pledge of Allegiance said in every classroom, and in God we trust on the walls, and put the Ten Commandments up in courthouses.
They may have that luxury after redistricting in a few elections, because that's going to help them, maintain majorities again into the future. But they don't have that luxury now. There is one social issue that I think will introduce, it's a semi-social issue that will be introduced, and I think that it will pass this year. And that is, that pertains to an event that took place here in Denver just last week, and that was the woman who was run over, and the sad story of that woman's baby dying in the Stapleton neighborhood. We have a law in Colorado.
It wasn't her baby. This was her unborn baby.
Her unborn baby.
Right, okay.
Well, yeah.
And so...
almost full-term unborn baby.
You have to put some bumpers on that, though, right? I mean,
obviously
you run the risk of going out to one extreme, or
both extremes are going to both extremes.
Before you go, let me see if I got the situation right. This woman was a victim of a hit and run. Should the cops find the guy who committed the crime, can he be charged with manslaughter or murder? The answer is no, because it was an unborn child, right?
That's right. And that
even though it was viable, they tried to deliver the baby, and the baby died.
Right, and they can't, because of the way the manslaughter and murder statutes in Colorado read. They define a person specifically as someone who was harmed in the crime but was born at the time of the crime. So that makes us unlike 2/3 of the states, including California, which have different laws. We all saw Lacey Peterson's husband prosecuted for first-degree murder and convicted for killing an unborn baby. And the federal government has a law that, so if she had been a federal employee, or if this had happened on federal property, and they had a suspect, they would charge that suspect with murder.
Why do I have got a sense that this is going to cause a big, big fight?
Well, it is.
It's going to cause
a big fight.
It's cause a huge fight, because already you have legislators in Colorado Springs and El Paso County sort of fighting right now over who gets to introduce this. They're excited about introducing this. The climate is perfect, especially if they get a suspect in this case.
Right.
But already on the far right and on the far left, you're seeing resistance to it. You have
Now, I get the far left, because this is going to be a slippery slope issue. That if you can say this is murder, well, then if I kill my own fetus, then that could be murder too.
Right.
So I get that one. Why would the right just like it?
But that's a bad position for them to take, because it works in 2/3 of the rest of the states. It works in California. It works for the federal government. They all accept abortion. Okay, specifically in the law. Not that they need to, because Roe v. Wade handles that already. But and on the right, there was something on one of the Denver stations the other night where they had Bob Inyard, I think he was the sponsor of the latest personhood amendment, who said he will actively fight any bill that does not provide full blanket protection for any unborn child at any stage against abortion. So he won't take a minor victory, and there are people like that.
Well, he's one of those guys that just really helps his own cause by doing that. Would something like this actually, I could see it making it through the House. Could it make it through the democratically controlled Senate?
I think that it depends on what it looks like when it comes out of the House. I think that in the Senate, you tend to have, the Republican caucus tends to be more hard right, and the Democrats in the Senate tend to be more to the left, and so it's a lot harder for them to find common ground.
What's the lead for the Democrats? They have how many more seats? About 4 or 5 more seats?
Oh, you know what? I'm not totally sure. I think it's 15 to 20.
That sounds about right. Yeah. So
I mean, if the Democrats didn't want to do that, I'm not saying that they won't. I'm saying if it looks okay, maybe you'll get, but you still have some real hard.
See, this is where a good governor who does not want to see this on his desk, you know, a powerful governor sends word down, you're going to kill this in this committee, so it never gets to my desk.
Right. Hickenlooper needs a good relationship with the Senate Democrats.
Owens could do that. Romer could do that. Ritter could not do that, and that's why these things would end up on his desk, and he'd do it. The question is, will Hick be able to do that?
I think that Hickenlooper there might be a learning curve here, right? Because he hasn't had to deal with this many moving parts, but I feel like he's savvy enough that he'll figure it out. I feel like he'll be
piece of legislation like this, however, is a good way for him to look moderate. Okay, because this is what's being proposed is a moderate piece of legislation, and it's a way for him to say, look, I support a woman's right to an abortion, but this isn't an abortion. This is a woman who was choosing to keep and bring up a child in the world. And so I don't really think I hope that'll be a real litmus test. Yeah. If this thing moves forward and he opposes it, that will tell us a lot about where how extreme he really is on some of these social issues.
What about the budget issue? This is going to be, I mean, these are fun issues. These are important issues. But, you know, the thing that's going to be staring him like a gun in the face is $1 billion shortfall, which for me, when he says, I'm going to shrink the size of government, well, yeah, you've got no choice. Unless you try to go for more revenue enhancements and more fees and more taxes, and that's not going to happen. I mean, that's one of the reasons Ritter could not win re-election, is because he passed a bunch of taxes as fees. So how does he handle? What does he have a plan?
Well, you know, we asked, actually a bunch of reporters sat down with him a week or two ago and asked him that. He's not giving out specifics at this point.
What kind of beer does he drink? Do you know?
You know, and he also will not. We've not been able to pin him down on what his favorite type of beer is. He joked around and he's like, something skinny or something like me, something skinny. You know, I think that it'll probably include combining a couple of departments. It'll probably include consolidating, you know, some of the administrative functions of some of these departments.
And he can do that on his own without legislation.
Well, you know, actually, I think if he's going to change the departments, he might need some help from the legislature. I'm not totally positive on that. But, you know, and we're hearing rumors about more furlough days for state employees. There aren't any set for next year.
I hate that. You know, in the private sector, they give people pay cuts. You wouldn't know about that working for newspapers, but in the private sector, 7%, and they expect the same amount of output, but they pay you less when there's a problem. That's what you reporters have gone through. That's what everybody has gone through. But in the government, no, we're going to not pay you, but you don't have to work. You can take the day off. I hope he steers away from that. I think that is a chicken's way out.
We actually had an unpaid a week of unpaid furlough in the depths of the Depression recession, and we received the whole company, the nationwide, did 5% pay cut. Some of that's come back in now, but and I know government's done some of that. But Hickenlooper is excited about laying off employees. He said that baby boomers are anxious to retire. It's a great time. And I think he sees an easy way to look like a slasher, a government slasher.
More attrition than layoffs, though. I mean, he's talking about not filling positions. He's talking about moving people, you know, into vacant spots and then not replacing.
Incentivizing them to retire.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Wouldn't you like to leave tomorrow?
It's time for you to go.
Twisting their arms really hard behind their back.
So I think we'll see a lot of that. Now, here's something to keep an eye on with Hick. He told us in the editorial board meeting that he opposes the dirty dozen tax increases and that they need to go. But he qualified that with as soon as possible.
But most of them expire in a couple years anyway. I mean, most of these things are snap back in 2 years.
And so we're talking about the tax increases on candy and
right.
soda and paper products and
online,
napkins.
You know,
all these things that were done
purchases
without a vote of the people and called a fee. So without a vote of the people, we were able to now pay taxes. Those expire in a couple years?
Well, it depends on which which cut, but they are supposed to expire in a year or two, depending. But